Relationships are an integral aspect of life. How we interact with people in our lives is what creates relationships. The harmony and peace that we have or don't have is really up to ourselves, for we create the relationships we have. By applying love, care, and respect into our relationships, we then allow a deeper exchange to take place. But what are relationships meant for? How do we address them to give and receive what they have to offer? These are some of the questions I've asked myself, mainly because of the struggles I've had with relationships over the years. Life is more effortless when we're able to find balance and peace with our relationships. Once I found peace with my relationships in my life, I discovered a deeper meaning of relationships. I discovered that I could create a sacred relationship with my partner. As my wife and I grounded our experience of having a sacred relationship with each other, we then began to apply the principles we had learned with each other to all our other relations. This deepened our inner experience on our day-to-day life of interacting with others. Three things relationships have taught me have been: 1, I have learned about what my triggers are, what triggers me to be happy, sad, angry, and all points in between. By knowing my triggers, I'm able to get to the source of my problems. 2, how to control my emotions and respond with gentleness. And 3, they have taught me to see a connectedness between myself and others. We are rewarded many growth opportunities because of our relationships with others. One of the rewards is that we can learn a great deal about ourselves through relationships. It really doesn't matter what type of relationship or how positive our relationships are. There is a possibility for personal development found before, during, and after we engage in a relationship. So what are relationships about? Relationships show us our strengths and weaknesses and are an important part of mastering ourselves. By looking at what works in our relationship, you can gain insight to where our strengths or weaknesses lay. Take some time and look at the relationships you have with others. Are you a leader amongst your friends, or do you prefer to support and follow along? What type of friends or partners do you attract? Look at their strengths and weaknesses. You may find similarities in yourself. Now flip this around. What makes you angry? How does relations with others spark anger, frustration, or sadness? By looking at all of these things, we gain a starting point into what we may have been hanging on to from our past. When relationship challenges are overcome, we then can move into a deeper domain of relations with others. By mastering relationships, we open up to see a unity with our fellow man. There is no separation between you and I. We are all one. When we see that oneness in each other, we then discover greater purpose of relationships. When we can look each other in the eyes and speak to each other's souls versus banging our egos together, there's no longer a need to struggle back and forth, projecting our traumas and dramas onto each other. Joining together in a relationship with another can serve as a much greater purpose when both individuals have cleared themselves of their desire to play ego tug-of-war. We then can join our energies to collectively seam together our potential power as one entity. Unity is already in place and completely intact. It's not something we need to create. All we need to do to experience it is to love each other and ourselves. Even if you're the only person in your community who's coming from love and willingness to spark unity within others, you make a difference. You open the door for more meaningful relationships to unfold in your life. You not only affect your life, but you affect every person you meet. You become a master of relationships. Relationships encompass more than our relations with others. We have relationships with everything and everyone on this earth. Without the interference of our ego in our relationships, we are better able to see our relation to each other. When we see how we're related to everything, we are less inclined to misuse people, places, and things. Our closest and most intimate relationship is the one we are having with ourselves. Our mind creates relationships with everything. Some of the same principles apply to creating a better relationship with ourselves as they do with others. We need to be gentle, kind, and loving towards ourselves always. The area that I found most out of balance was the relationship with my mind. There was never any distance between me and the thoughts in my head. There was a constant dialogue running in my mind. If you find yourself having no control over your ability to set down your thoughts, it may be a good indication that a mindful practice may be of benefit to you. How do we engage in relationships with others? How you engage the world and others can tell you a lot about yourself. Relationships are about engagement. They call for us to express ourselves and to listen to others. To be authentic and real with relationships, we must be willing to openly share what we are truly feeling, seeing, and hearing. Also, we must be open to hear the same back. An authentic engagement with relationships requests us to respond in diverse ways. In the past, I was very reckless in my engagement with others and myself. I was fast to anger and slow to cool. Over time, I learned how to soften my approach with relationships. However, in an effort to curb my recklessness, I became more passive-aggressive. I found it challenging to strike a balance. Finding equilibrium happened for me when I become genuine, loving, respectful, and caring for myself and others. It doesn't require us to talk in a soft, monotone voice either. The difference is that I'm willing to come from truth versus passiveness or anger. I also had to become as good at listening as I was at talking. People close to me found it hard to talk to me because if I didn't like what I was hearing, I'd become very defensive and angry. Learning how to listen was a bigger obstacle for me to overcome. Sacred relationships. Sacred relationships take us deeper into the purpose of relationships. Sacred relationships are built on unconditional love, respect, trust, and with the inclusion of devotion to one another. In your devotion to another, it's important to never lose sight of yourself or your relationship with God. Our connection to God is the well from which we draw our ability to create sacred relationships. Therefore, your relationship with God must always be your first love. Without God, there is nothing sacred to engage in with another. A sacred relationship, by my definition, is a relationship that is based on deepening our relationship with God. There's a devotion to each other to assist and guide each other in the fulfillment of each other's purpose in life. You never lose sight of the love that is created for each other. When one is not at their finest, the other tries to stay anchored in love and support the other. Even if you are the one who is getting angry or frustrated, the other needs to maintain a position of love. By holding each other in love, you invite resolve to come much faster than if you were to take the situation personally. A sacred relationship doesn't entail you becoming subservient to each other. It just means that you always try to do your best for each other. In an all-give relationship, you never have to fight for your needs. The other person will do that for you. You become attentive to each other and respond to what needs to be given. There is never a tit-for-tat mentality, nor does one ever relish an "I told you so." This is the basis of my relationship with my wife. The result is a never-ending peace between us. She's never kicked me when I've been down. Even when I get snappy with her, she always holds me in perfect love. We appreciate the love that we share and always look for ways to give more to each other. Sacred relationships are easy in comparison to other relationships I've had in my life. Not that I've had bad partners, it's just that I wasn't ready to step into this kind of relationship. My ego had too much control over me. However, it takes two committed people to engage in a sacred relationship. It's not a do-it-yourself kind of project. We're all meant to embrace all of our relationships with reverence and divine love. When we are combative and resistant to relationships, we miss out on a great deal of growth that they offer us. If we shove relationships out of our life or struggle with them, this is a good indication that we may require more time reflecting on loving ourselves. The very essence of who and what we are is designed for us to be in relationships. At the depth of our spirit and soul, there's no separation between us. There's no you, just I. The unmovable portion of your soul is unified with all things. The perceived separation we experience is the mind interrupting the moment we're in. That is why we're designed to be in relationships to deepen our relationships into sacred ones, so that we can experience unification with others. When we remove the barriers between us, we are able to catch a glimpse of the truth herein. When you look deep enough into another, you will find yourself looking back.